writer and director here in Houston, Texas.
I just wanted to start out, what was a moment from either of the two films, or one from each, that particularly stands out for you from the filming process?
I think filming Eman, just filming in Palestine, was a very big thing that we did. I mean, I shot it by myself, but being able to film on, in my country and on my land, it was actually behind my family's home. And just shooting the landscape and filming with my family, that was them, shout out to them. It was fun, it was stressful because it is such a heavy story that I decided to kind of write and work on. So I was just worried that I didn't want it to come out like tacky or anything that doesn't live up to the history of what happened. So I think that was just filming in Falasteen, filming on land, filming with my family was probably what stood out the most in Eman. For Kufiya, it was my first short film where I worked with a crew outside of film school. And just working with the crew, working with real actors, a real DP, a real gaffer, a real everybody, professionals for sure. It was amazing. It was a learning curve a little bit because I felt like I didn't do anything. As a director, whoever knows the field, everything goes well when you don't have to do anything, or you have to do the least amount of work on set. But I didn't know that, and I felt like I was slacking. I was just like, what am I? Nothing is happening. I'm not doing anything on my part. But alhamdulillah, thankfully everything was amazing, and we had such an amazing crew. So that, just working with a crew of professional people, was probably what stood out the most in that short film.
Do you want to go through any of your writing or creating process from start to finish? Kind of like what starts you, what inspires you, and then how do you go through production and through post?
So the writing process is just writing something, saying it sucks, and then finishing it, and then saying, I don't know about this, it sucks. And then going back and feeling confident enough in the story to film it. Because I'm not big on I don't have a specific way I write. Sometimes ideas come when I'm walking, or just random things when you're not thinking about it and it just pops in hey, we should do a Nakba story of a young girl surviving the Nakba, because Eman is just a short film of a feature film I'm hoping to create in the future, inshallah. And that's what that story is. So, and then the actual production is, again, Eman, I worked on it by myself with my family, and Kufiya was crew. So just doing what I can to make to make the film, have it made, whether it's by myself or with somebody else. And when that's done, just edit it. Oh, I know it's very, it sounds very straightforward. It doesn't sound fancy or anything interesting, because it really isn't. It's just kind of picking my brain, and whenever something fun or interesting comes up that I can write about, I do. And I try not to let the negative self-talk overwhelm me, but yeah.
For the feature film, do you plan to go back and to do it in Palestine with your family?
Probably not my family. We need some people who can really, really cry on the spot. And it's gonna be some heavy, the feature film, actually, I wrote before writing the short film. And I was like, since I'm going to Palestine anyway, let me create something that I can film. So the feature that's gonna require a lot of planning, resources, moolah, and inshallah, when that happens, I'm probably not gonna do it anytime soon, but when that does happen, I wanna go back and film some very, very intense scenes, dark scenes, yeah.
You actually did a wonderful job of answering a lot of the other questions that I wrote down. I wanted to open it up to y'all to ask if you have questions or words of love, even gifts of cash. But yeah, if there's anyone from the audience that wanted to ask a question.
Thank you so much for this. Both of those are incredible. I wanted to ask if there's any sort of other, avenues of art creation that you do to inform what you already are creating in films. Is there any other practices that really help honing your filmmaking skills?
If there's other practices that help my filmmaking skills,
Yeah, other art practices.
um, I like to paint a lot. I haven't done it in a minute, but I love painting. Overall, when you're a filmmaker, you wonder where it went wrong. I should have been a doctor. I should have been a lawyer. But I very much love the arts. I love photography. I love painting, anything that's artistic, and that I feel like really does help creating films and just tapping into that creative side of your mind. This isn't like an artistic skill, but having a lot of faith, I genuinely, as a Muslim, that helps so much because it really is a very difficult, even though you love it, it's a very difficult field to be in when you're very unsure about a lot of the work that you do and just the film scene in general. So I think having a lot of faith in the work that you're doing, for me, and knowing that I'm doing it to help people, to help Palestinians, to help people in my country, because I don't want to get shunned by my family for being a filmmaker, not doing anything Falasteen related. So I think that all really helps me when I am trying to work on projects or just as a filmmaker in general.
This person right in the back.
Thank you so much. These films were just so powerful. I was wanting to ask, when did you film Eman?
I'm sorry?
When did you film the
Filming. I filmed it in 2022 and released it when the genocide happened. So that's where all the footage that you see post film, all of that was in the beginning of the genocide. I was actually still working on the film, and as a perfectionist, did not want to release it yet, but I was like, this is the moment where it needs to be heard the most. These voices need to be heard. So I wanted to add a little bit of aside from the film itself, I wanted to add like a remembrance of what the people are going through. So, and I felt like it could be like very intense. I wanted to give like a trigger warning, but I was like, it's important for people to see. And like the words are just there as well after the footage for people to know who don't know. And for the people who know, but they just need to see that and feel with everything that's happening already. So, yeah.
I just want to say I absolutely loved all of them. They were so breathtaking.
Thank you, Austin.
I just want to ask, who are your inspirations to become a film director?
The funny thing is, everybody says, "Who's your favorite director?" I name one person, and then they're like, "Who else?" I'm like, "I don't know." Like I love watching films, but I don't always take in the names, which is ironic. But aside from, I got into film because of taking an AVP class in high school. But the person that I always kind of, when I see their work, I'm amazed and it inspires me is Ava DuVernay. And I don't know who hasn't seen When They See Us, but you're gonna cry. If you don't cry, there's something wrong with you. But it's so emotional, it's so powerful. I remember when I finished that series, I was like, that's the kind of work I want to create. And that's how I want my audience to feel. The same way I'm feeling, I want everybody else to feel. So Ava DuVernay, yeah, that's the only person I can really think of.
Jules and then.
What are your next projects? What should we look out from you next?
Actually Monday, I did something with my sister. I should promote it properly, be confident, but I acted in a short film that I did with my sister like a year ago, and I'm releasing it Monday on my Instagram, called Behind Trap Doors. And that's one of the projects that that I'm releasing. I'm working on a comedy short film that inshallah soon I'll be I'll finish writing that and start working on creating it. A fun one that I really like is I don't know how you would call it, an interview series called The Muslima Chronicles, which is a series that highlights Muslim women in their their skills, their talents, whether it's in the work field or just their general like amazingness. So the first person I actually filmed was Subhana Ahmed. She's a black belt taekwondo artist who, I think that's how you say it. Yeah, who owns her own taekwondo school for women. So I thought that was amazing. That's something that's gonna be so fun to to showcase. But that's also something I'm working on too.
And then you had a question?
I wanted to know if you gained any important insights about yourself or just about your artistic journey throughout the creative process.
I think creating Eman was like such a hurdle. It wasn't that it was like it was difficult, but it was just like, again, figuring out, am I gonna really do this? Is it gonna like look good? Is it gonna live up to the story? And I think I've learned that I'm very, very passionate. I know that we all say we're passionate, but I'm passionate and tenacious about my work very much. And even in moments where I know that's not like an artistic part of it, but I think that when I approach a project, I go all out, and it stresses me and it like bugs me a lot. Like I love it, but it also, there's a very intense struggle and a stressful side to it. But I've learned that I'm very quick to deal with it if it's for the story, for the sake of the story. And artistically, I mean, I was proud a lot from like those shots that I took, because I filmed that B-roll in Eman, just so y'all know. Like the camera work, it was a DSLR, and just I was lucky, like that rooster that was making that noise, I just caught it off guard. The donkey making that noise, caught it off guard. So I got lucky with that, but I was really happy with how I went about creating the short films. And because it wasn't with a crew, and it was like, I just made the choice to do it, and I was able to do it and get the shots that I envisioned. I think that's something I was very proud of as well.
Like, as a Palestinian, I don't know if you, when you work on your Palestinian projects, I don't know if you feel like you're like faced with your own emotions, and you're like, wow, this is too heavy, even like for me to process it. So I think as a Palestinian, I don't even realize like how bad it affects me until like I open up about it. I'm trying to translate it to other people, and then you feel like you have to process your own emotions to translate to people. I don't know. How do you feel? Do you feel like it's like too heavy for you, and how do you cope with it?
For me, it's like, I don't know if it definitely has like a heavy side to it, but I'm so engulfed by the story and telling the story that that's what I focus on. For Eman, again, before I wrote the short film, I wrote the feature, and that one's a much more intricate, long version of what happens to this young girl in the movie. And I was just talking to my family members. I want to know the history. I want to know what happened to the Palestinians during the Nakba, aside from being, pushed out of their homes. And there were some horrific stories I heard about, aside from them being killed, tortured, raped, even like for some women. And like, there's just it's such an intense thing, and just stuff and history to take in and to hear. So that can become very heavy, and that can become something that you have to dwell on and sympathize, because we're not going to be human if we can't deal with that. But at the same time, when I'm writing the story, I'm thinking, no, yeah, for sure, I just thought of something. There were some very sad moments in writing that feature, and I was like, this is heavy. Do I have to do this to her? Does she have to go through this specific thing and lose these specific people? But it's like, it really is the story of what so many Palestinians have gone through. It may not necessarily be like a copy and paste of this young girl's story in the film, but it's definitely very similar and just as horrific, if not more. So that always gets to me, but at the end of the day, I'm always looking at how do I tell this story? Because I really want people to understand what Palestinians go through, whether it's during the Nakba or what's happening now, because we don't see that in Hollywood. We don't see it in Hollywood, and it's very unfortunate, it's very wrong, but we need to start shifting that narrative that Hollywood has of Muslims and Arabs, and that's one of the main reasons why I became a director, is to do that, because I'm kind of sick and tired of people having Arabs talking Arabic in freaking terrorist films or in the desert blowing people up. We don't do that, by the way. I'm sure everybody has met a whole bunch of Palestinians here who are so kind and sweet and just want to feed you makluba. So, yeah.
Alright, I think one last question.
In the end, Eman seemed to have a wound on her lips. Was that symbolic of her being tortured, assaulted, or attacked?
That was just a young girl. She had chapped lips. I love that you saw that though. I could have just been like, yeah, but I wanted to be honest, but yeah.
Just to wrap us up, from both of those films that you've worked on and shared with us today, you kind of already mentioned it, but what do you want us to take away as an audience and carry out into the world?
Funny enough, I kind of I said this yesterday after the play, but I want people to see what's happening to Palestine, which you already see, and hear personal stories, but I also want to showcase the rich history and culture of Palestine and Palestinians, because everybody, when they think of Falasteen, they think of very dark and tragic past, which is very true, and we do need to know that. We do need to hear people's voices, but we also have to acknowledge that Falasteen has a very, very rich and beautiful land, beautiful people, beautiful country that belongs to the Palestinians. And I mentioned this because I actually argued with my friend one time who said there's no life in Palestine. And I was like, it's the first time I got that mad at her. I was like, no, that's not true. There's a lot of life. There's so much life in Falasteen. There's so much life in the Palestinians, you know? And that's why so many people, when they talk about Falasteen as a Palestinian, they're like, oh, we understand that this is going on, but we are very, I think like in the Camille's documentary, a young man said it was very unserious. Like Palestinians are very unserious, and that's because they love their lives and they enjoy their lives, but they understand that that occupation is not who they are. It's a struggle that they're going through, but it's like some of the most beautiful experiences I've had was when I was in Falasteen. I always tell people, like, I would rather live there than here, in an occupied Palestine, compared to, no offense, I'm making it sound like, here it's just, its own thing, but it's just like, it's beautiful, family's so important, and just knowing that Palestinians, they are more than just, the tragedies that they're experiencing.
We've done some shout outs, we know what's coming next. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us to close us out? I think that was a wonderful.
I'm happy you guys, thank you for coming to watch it. I always get nervous when people watch the films. I'm like, I hope this makes them cry. Because then I know that I did my job, or at least, feel, some type of way emotional. So I'm happy you guys came out. Thank you so much. And I hope to keep making films to support Falasteen, and of course just films that speak the voices of those that are unheard and the ones in the warped Hollywood narratives that we're trying to get rid of and change. So thank you.
Thank you.